Ginger Duggar-Volo, whose new book is called People Pleaser, set off a conversation. Her book says, breaking free from the burden of imagining expectations. Now, when you think of people pleasing, it's most commonly, I feel, associated with women. Experts say women are taught to be, I don't need an expert to tell me this, passive and low maintenance, or we're gonna be called difficult, challenging, bossy. Raise your hand if you've been called that. And worse, she said. Well, our next guest is a man who went viral talking about how people-pleasing can ruin your life. It was ruining his. Kevin Tavas Villanueva found himself spending hours in his car acting as a personal assistant to people in his life, even people he wasn't close with. Take a look.
Being nice, it's honestly what's ruining your life right now. I am on this little quest to understand why my people-pleasing habits, why growing up being this perfect kind of child who's like easygoing and easy to be around with and nice to everyone, like nice. And then here I am as an adult feeling like I cannot connect to people easily. Because when you think of being nice, like what comes to your head? Like, oh my God, if someone tells you like, you're so nice, like you'd feel great. You'd be like, oh my God, I am nice. Like people like me. Not being nice means that you have the ability to be honest and truthful about everything that you want to say. Not being nice pretty much makes you feel like your authentic self. And at the same time, you are able to assert your own ideas, your own beliefs, your own conviction. I think that is so important, your own conviction.
That video received 9 million views, 12,000 comments, and Kevin has continued documenting his break from people-pleasing ways. Please welcome Kevin to the show. All right. Did you ever imagine you were going to go viral from that?
No, oh my God. Like I think I came back from work and I kind of had like a little altercation and I'm like, I'm so angry, I'm just gonna pull out my phone and I'm just gonna like,
I'll tell you,
on my living room.
Right.
And then I'm like, oh, that feels good. That's what I do because I don't handle conflict. So guess what I do? I go home and like marinate on it.
Yeah.
But I mean, at the same time, it was really nice because I think it reached a lot of people and you know, a lot of the comments are people resonating with, oh my God, I'm going through this and people can relate. I think people were looking for that.
They're looking for the authentic conversation, and Ginger's book hit a nerve. You have something in common. You both had this expectation of family. You grew up in the Philippines.
Yes.
And you grew up in an environment where people-pleasing was complimented.
100%.
Yeah.
It was kind of like, I mean, I can speak for my family.
Yeah.
It was trained from the very beginning. And again, when I looked at people pleasing, and I looked at the root cause of it, it was when I was a kid. I felt like I was trained to be that. And again,
Yeah, you're a cute kid. Listen, but I think that's real because a lot of everything that we are comes from our childhood. But I want to jump forward to, you're at work and someone says, can you give me a ride? I'm like, how did this happen?
Okay, so this was a coworker that
that shall remain nameless.
Yeah, so we're not very close, but I was actually in bed. It was around 1 a.m., like 2 a.m., something like that. I don't remember. And they were in a club. So she messaged me on.
I'm gonna clutch this pillow right now. No. So it's 1 a.m. and somebody you're not very close to from work calls.
Yeah. And then she messaged me and she's, hey, can you give us a ride? Me and my boyfriend are kind of drunk. We can't get home. And then I was on my phone and I was like, oh my God, what do I say? I can't say no. And I think,
They shouldn't have called it. I get what happened though, because first of all, your mind, you're like, wait a minute, they asked me. And then they say, I'm drunk. You're like, oh gosh, let me help.
If you don't do anything.
Yeah,
exactly.
And that's something you both talk about. What is the difference between nice versus kind? What's the difference from your view?
Yeah, I think that it's interesting. Whenever we come to each situation, there are so many times where we're faced with this, like, okay, do I know you? How much do I go the extra mile?
Yeah.
Because we want to like be selfless and not selfish in that. And at the same time, it's like, what's the motivation? What's motivating me? Is it out of wanting to lay down my life and help you? and serve you, which can be a good motivation. But at the end, it's like also it could be selfish. Like, I want you to think well of me.
Is that what happened?
And that's what it is.
Yeah.
100%.
You wanted the coworker who called you at 1 a.m. to think that you were nice.
Absolutely. I think that's what was bred into me.
Right.
To be the hero of the story.
Yeah.
To be, you know, I want that validation from other people.
Yes.
Because I cannot get it for myself. So, yeah, if you're not getting the validation from yourself, you're gonna look for it from everyone else.
Yes.
So.
That's a nerve. You hit a nerve with that one. Ginger and Kevin aren't going anywhere. Coming up, a woman who says she gave up her scholarship money to please a man. How setting boundaries cured her people-pleasing ways. We'll be right back. Welcome back. All hour long, we are talking about people-pleasing. Ginger Duggar-Volo is here in discussion her new book. It set off a whole hot topic conversation here. Kevin is still with us. He sparked a conversation after being a personal Uber driver for people he barely knew because he didn't want them to think he wasn't a nice person. Kevin and Ginger both say that people-pleasing stemmed from traditional homes, and it was our guest's lack of a quote-unquote traditional environment that she said left her craving love and acceptance. She's an actress, a comedian, and author of the book, Not Everyone is Gonna Like You, Thoughts from a Former People Pleaser. She appeared on our show last April about the importance of likability versus talent. Please welcome Rinny Perkins back to the couch. Again, like this audience, all of this traces back to childhood. Yours was that at the time your mom was a single parent? You were raised in a single parent environment? What was it?
I was raised by my grandma.
Grandmom.
Yeah, I was raised by my grandmother. My parents divorced, like, I don't even remember. I was like a child. And one of the things that I had to kind of adapt to was this level of hyper independence and just to show up as like this exemplary child, and what that meant.
So you had to be perfect, child.
I had to be perfect, and one of the fundamental things that I remember trying to do was making sure that that my existence wasn't a burden to anyone else. And that's a lot for a kid to take on, you know?
Yeah.
I had
And you felt that way because your grandmom was making sacrifices to raise you. Where was this exemplary child coming from?
I really wanted the nuclear family that you would see on TV. And I mentioned this in my book. So there's this instance where my grandmother sacrificed so much. She was 86 years old, and every morning she would walk out to the bus stop to watch me get on the bus. And I was embarrassed because she'd be out there in her muumuu. And I remember one day some kids in the back of the bus, they yelled, "Whose grandma is that?" And I just
struck down.
I just shrunk. But I really wanted desperately to kind of have that nuclear family instead of really embracing and accepting the family that I did have. And so I thought by being exemplary, somehow I could attain that.
You write in your book, one of their mantras, she gives great advice in the book. You write, "Blood is thicker than water, but so is toxic waste." And I love that, Kevin, because in your own life, you talked about having this enough is enough moment with your family, that you had to stand up to the family to have it bleed out into the rest of your relationship.
Yeah, 100%, because it's like, you know, you don't know that you're chained up in that moment until you free yourself from it. And then once you're out of there, you're like, oh my God, what have I been kind of, you know, been doing my whole life? So.
Ginger, in your book, you write about faith being a big part of what helped cure you, so to speak. You wrote, holding firm to your faith means that you're going to make people angry sometimes. Being on social media opens you up to a lot of potential disagreement. Life as a human is going to have plenty of moments when you have to step up into the conflict zone, like it or not. I like that because, you know, Prince once told me, and I hate starting that name drop, but I'm gonna do it. He said the only people who like compromise are the people who win it. And he wasn't a fan of compromise because he felt like somehow you end up losing something. I have conflicting views on that because I do like a good compromise, but the people who really revel in it are those who sometimes are the bullies because they end up getting what they want because you acquiesce, you please them.
And what's crazy is that I want to like add into this is that some people, like for me, I don't even get to the compromise part. I compromise before the
Right.
compromise. Like I think of what can I compromise so that this person will be happy before I get to that. So I'm thinking ahead for their sake and to lower my sake. So
You're moving your moral compass. You're moving what you want because at the end of the day, so how do you balance
you're just
it?
giving into like what you're giving up what you know is to be right or true, or sometimes people pleasing is a form of survival. It is where you
That
have
hit me, Mike, 'cause you feel like that's how
you're
you
doing
have to
that because
survive.
you're trying to survive. But ultimately, at the end of the day, whenever we realize, okay, in my journey of faith, it's been like, okay, I see how much Jesus loved me and laid down his life, and I want to show that to others. So there's a selfless side of people pleasing where I want to please others, but not to get anything from them.
Not anything from them.
But just to like give and to like out of being fully satisfied, you're not desperate for their
But that's
approval
the thing.
and acceptance.
Rinny, we talked about, and I knew when I mentioned to the audience, you gave up your scholarship money for somebody. That was going to hit a nerve.
We're supposed to be girls.
I'm your girl. I'm your girl.
Girl.
But it's one of the. But I think sometimes people feel like you give to. If I give them this, they're gonna love me. If I give them, we do it with our kids.
Yeah.
My mom just said Moses' birthday is coming up. What are we gonna get? I said he has Christmas gifts. He hasn't even opened. We're giving him nothing. Maybe a pair of bluey pajamas.
Let's go.
But that's a part of the bluey. I mean bluey. I got bluey on the brain. That's a part of the thing. You feel like if I give them this, they'll love and like me, and I'm pleasing them.
Yeah. Well, the truth behind that story is, since Tamron already told y'all, I did have a scholarship that I was given, and I ended up spending that money on a birthday gift for an ex. And I got to college, and I didn't have money for my books because I didn't know you had to pay for books, because I didn't know how college worked. And it was in that moment that I realized that I really did overextend myself for someone who wouldn't dare do the same for me.
What did you learn from that moment? Because you are a former people pleaser. That's how you put yourself out there. What was the moment? I mean, what did you take from that moment?
Well, I always say that I am a work in progress because I still have to consistently, daily check in with myself to see if what I take on aligns with the bandwidth that I have to give.
Right.
And so I think that's the real lesson there, like consistently checking in with yourself, because if you don't have the bandwidth to give it, then why are you trying to offer it up?
That's so true. Kevin, any more calls at 1 a.m. come in? What are you doing?
No.
So you're a work in progress,
I am always going to be a work in
I love that.
progress.
I love that honesty, because that's the point of the book, Ginger. It's not a. It's a marathon. You know, sometimes we try to make life so black and white. Today you're going to watch this show and you're no longer going to be a people pleaser. That's just not true.
Yeah, it doesn't
it's
happen
circumstantial,
overnight.
and that's what you talk about in the book. Well, I love you all, and I had permission to tell that story about the She's joking.
I'm joking.
All right, thank you to our guest, Kevin. You can follow on TikTok at KTville_. Rinny's book is Not Everyone Is Gonna Like You, Thoughts from a Former People Pleaser, available where books are sold. Tam Fam, get ready. Ginger's book, it's called People Pleaser. You're on.